Alright, let's see what I think about everybody's favorite 50-year-old horror movie. Let's go. Hello, this is Daniel Mart back again. I'm an actor and filmmaker based out of South Florida, and for this video, like I said, I'm going to be reviewing everybody's favorite 50-year-old horror movie, Jaws. So yeah, Jaws is a movie that I've actually been talking about a little bit in some previous videos this year. The 50th anniversary, I believe, was like on June or July, one of those 2 days. I mean, it's the original summer blockbuster. That's what everybody knows this movie for, as well as a bunch of other things. I mean, it's directed by Steven Spielberg. You know, it basically made sharks scary for everybody and their mothers. So what do I think about this movie? And I'm going to be honest with you, and as you could probably tell from this video, the video title, and the thumbnail, it's not that I'm not the biggest fan of it, but there is a part of me that thinks this movie is highly overrated. Sorry, not sorry, but that's my opinion. So, let me talk about the actual good stuff in this movie before I actually get into what I consider the bad stuff about this movie. So first off, the good stuff about this movie, let's get this out of the way first. Jaws, the shark, Bruce the shark. The way that Steven Spielberg utilized Bruce the shark in this movie is just great, especially given the fact of how he needed to use it, given the fact that Bruce, the animatronic of Bruce, didn't really want to work properly, so to speak. They always had these issues where it worked when they wanted to, it didn't work when they needed it to. Honestly, look at a bunch of these behind the scenes videos in regards to Jaws, in regards to the actual shark animatronic, and how Steven Spielberg basically improvised on the fly of how to use a shark, given the limitations that they were given. I think it's just stupendous, and the way they worked with it is actually really good. It does bring some good tension throughout the movie, because you don't really necessarily know when the shark is about to attack, so to speak. It does bring some really good tension, and the way he was able, Steven Spielberg, the way he was able to utilize that to his advantage, you know, using a disadvantage to an advantage, I think was just great overall. And I think that is a real high praise of the movie, honestly, because I think sometimes for filmmakers, it's very hard sometimes to almost improvise on the spot. Even me as a filmmaker, whether I've been there as the director myself or as an actor on a project, sometimes I can tell when the filmmaker isn't as amped, so to speak, to improvise on the fly because of the situation. Sometimes, and again, this happens to me sometimes, even myself as a filmmaker, where sometimes the situation, the scene, better said, it's so set in stone because of the shot list or X, Y, and Z. It's so set in stone that sometimes when something goes awry, sometimes it's hard to move past that, move past the original idea, move past the original concept, and try to do something new, given the new circumstances you had presented to yourself. I'll be honest, that's happened to me a few times on some of my sets, and I've seen that happen to other filmmakers when I'm just there as an actor. I've seen that happen to other filmmakers where, like, hey, maybe you could just move past it, maybe not use that shot, maybe do this another way. Again, for me as a filmmaker, I've seen that happen. For me, myself, honestly, as a director, I'll be honest, there's been times where I've been a little bit too more stuck in my ways, but at the same time, I've seen that happen on other sets. And the way that Steven Spielberg was able to utilize, again, these disadvantages to his advantage at the end of the day, honestly, is stupendous. I think that's the first major thing I need to give props and credits to, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Past that, let's be honest, the score. The score is iconic. It is easily one of the most iconic scores in film history, up there with Indiana Jones. Of course, I would say Titanic is probably another iconic score. I mean, it is, by definition, one of the top scores of all time. Superman, the original Superman score is, of course, straight there. You know, I would say the Gremlin score is also up there. Like, just, again, iconic scores. I'm just racing through my mind, like, what other iconic scores you have there? Casablanca, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Again, this is, when you want to talk about capital scores, a score that you just immediately know from the first note what movie it's based on, or better said, what movie it's for. Jaws. And going along with that, Jaws, the score for Jaws, better said, also helped in making sharks basically public enemy number one at a beach. It made them scary for people who typically wouldn't find sharks scary. I mean, Jaws in and of itself made a whole horror subgenre, not just of creature features. I mean, we've had creature features ever since, you know, even Godzilla and Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, that one quite literally has the word creature in the title, Creature from the Black Lagoon. You know, depending how you want to define creatures, some people even say something like Dracula and Frankenstein are creature features because they're not human. Even though they're humanoid, they're not actual true human creatures, if that makes sense, or human beings. So I mean, again, this is one of those things that in the pantheon of creature features, in the pantheon of creature movies and animal-based movies, you know, alongside the likes of, let's say, Cujo, for example, like animal-based movies, not supernatural animals like a werewolf, but like just straight-up animal movies, like I would say, like Them, the Ant movie, which even though that's a bit supernatural, or better said scientific natural, because it's more based on a science thing. That's why they get big versus a supernatural power. But regardless, again, this does have a reason. There's a huge reason why this goes in the pantheon of creature features, creature movies. And to a further point, like I was trying to get to earlier, it even made a whole subgenre of creature features called shark movies. I mean, we don't get stuff like Sharknado, to be honest with you, without Jaws, okay? William Grayfay, who's a local South Florida director, who was pretty big around this time. I think he's best known for The Great Monica. I believe that's how you say the name of the shark, or Monaco Shark. Like, that's his big movie, but like, again, you don't get a movie like that without Jaws, for example. Again, you don't get these like B-tier shark movies without Jaws. So I think for that as well, I need to give it major props. You know, again, the score is fantastic, and just what it's done for film history, it's just stupendous. The fact that it created the blockbuster movie. I mean, again, the word blockbuster wasn't even a concept before this. Before this, yes, you have big movies like Psycho, Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Dracula, Frankenstein. Yes, you had these big movies, Snow White, the original Snow White as well. You had these big movies, but they weren't necessarily blockbusters. The term blockbuster quite literally means a movie that's so popular that when the lines to form to watch a movie are there, they bust, so to speak, the block. It moves past the actual block. Originally, you just needed to line up for the movie theater, and there'd be a line, and then you could get in, you pay for your ticket, and that's it. But no, this broke that trend, so to speak, where it busted the block. That's why you have the term blockbuster, and eventually you got the blockbuster stores, which are no longer a thing anymore unless you live in Oregon. So that's saddening, but that's a whole different side story. For film history and for how the movie was made, and in the way it was made, it's just amazing. And of course, it got surprisingly so, it got nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Best Picture is probably the most notable one. Funny enough, Steven Spielberg didn't get nominated for Best Director. He actually got beaten out by Fellini. Federico Fellini, of all people. Which, I mean, fair enough. If you're going to get beaten by somebody, might as well be Fellini. One of the best filmmakers of all time, especially during that time. But it's funny, if you see that video of him reacting to the Oscars, he literally goes like, I got beaten by Fellini. No, Fellini beat me. It's kind of funny, not gonna lie, but it's still the fact that, hey, this is one of your first films. I think the only film he had done before this was like Duel, I want to say. I think he did a few short films before this, but I think his only other major film before this was Duel. And even then, that's a TV movie. So he went from a TV movie to this, like, in the span of like that. There is a certain element of respect that you have to give to this movie for just its technical mastery on so many levels, and as well as the impact it's had for film history and just and everything it's done for film history in that regard. I mean, it's something that's continuously referenced even up until this day. I mean, you have Back to the Future. Granted, that's in the 90s, but Back to the Future even referenced the fact, hey, we're going to have a Jaws 19. There's a reason why. Like, during the 50th anniversary this year, we had a bunch of special releases of Jaws. I mean, it's such an impactful movie, and that's something I can never deny. And even the movie itself, like, let's get to the actual movie itself. I do like the movie in a sense. I think it's well acted. I think all the actors do a great job. And I think, and this is where I'm going to start losing some people I know, but I think that the first half, 2/3 of the movie are good. Actually, I really enjoy the first 2/3 of the movie. I think it's really well done. I think it's great. I love almost the mystery aspect of what's going on in this town. How or why are all these people dying by the beach? And all that mystery aspect, I love it because you have the whole town there. You have, I'm not gonna lie, I'm forgetting the name of the town right now. It's not like Anaheim. It's not. Is it a real place? It's not like Anaheim, California. Oh my gosh, but whatever. Is it like Sunnyvale or Sunny Vista? Something like that. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've already corrected myself 5 times over by this point. But the actual town that's portrayed in Jaws, when they're trying to figure out how are these people getting murdered, what's going on, oh, we're gonna go shark hunting now. I think all of that is great, and I honestly think that's the best aspect of the movie, when everybody's in town almost as a communal way, so to speak, in trying to figure out this mystery. That's honestly my favorite part of the movie, the first like half to 2/3 of the movie, when they're in town trying to figure all this out. But I'm gonna be completely honest, the film takes a major nosedive for me the second that Brody, Quint, and Hopper get on the boat and try to hunt for the shark themselves. The second that happens, every single time I've seen this movie, that second that happens, towards the end of the movie, the second half of the movie, the second that happens, I kind of check out. I am no longer interested in the movie. Because, again, for me, the most interesting aspect of this movie is how the town is reacting to all these events going on with the shark, with all these murders going on because of the shark. For me, that's honestly the most interesting aspect of the movie. How the mayor is handling, how Mayor Vaughn is handling all this stuff, and how, in a sense, he knows that these guys, Brody, Hopper, and Quint, he knows that they're right, but he's also trying to be that, you know, hey, not necessarily hey, good times type person, but he's trying to, like, also keep the bottom line, making sure that the sponsors for the town, or the people, you know, who are investing in the town, that they're not spooked off because of these events. Again, once you get to the ocean, I mean, yes, you have some good stuff. I'm not gonna lie. The Indianapolis monologue, that's great. And like I said, I think the way they utilize the shark, especially in that second half, I still think it's great. The way Quint dies, it's great. But I'm not gonna lie either in saying that just because it has a few great moments doesn't magically repair or rectify how boring this last portion of the movie is. I'm not gonna lie. I'm genuinely not gonna lie. The second the three of them go off on the boat to hunt for the shark, I check out. I kind of just don't care anymore. Because again, my favorite aspect of this movie is when they're all in the town, as a community, as a village, trying to figure out what's going on. Where you have this rivalry between Brody and Vaughn. Where you have this rivalry between the two of them, and Brody being right, and Vaughn, the mayor, knowing he's right, but him not wanting to admit that he's right because he still needs to keep the bottom line. You know, him talking to his wife and his kids about what's going on. Him talking about Hopper, about like, hey, I think we did catch a shark. Oh, wait, never mind. That's not the right shark because of this, that, and the other. What? Are you sure? Crap. Again, for me, everything that happens in the town is so much more interesting than what happens at the end. I know it's kind of a hot take, but because the ending just takes it to such a nosedive. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, for me, the movie is, like, it always climbs up, whatever, and then once we hit that scene where they depart into the ocean, it's like, it's almost like a very steep drop-off, because I honestly just start losing interest. I generally, like that last portion of the movie, sometimes it's even a struggle for me to even be awake during that portion of the movie. I've seen this movie several times. I've watched it a few times this year. I watched it right before doing this review, straight up. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of, like, right now, at the time that I'm filming this portion, who knows how I edited this, but right now, we are about 13 minutes and 30 seconds in. I woke up about 20 minutes ago, because, honestly, that last portion of the movie is a struggle to get through, for me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, that's how much of a nosedive the ending is for me. I'm not gonna deny it. Here's another hot take, and I'm not sure how many people necessarily feel about this, but in certain respects, I don't even see this as a horror movie. If not for the fact that this is a shark movie, if not for the fact that this is, again, like I said earlier in the video, if not for the fact that this is considered a creature feature, I wouldn't even call this a horror movie. Straight up, it's a movie with horrific moments or like gory moments, sure, but it's also one of those things that just because a movie has some gory or horrific imagery doesn't inherently make it a horror movie. I think a similar example would be something like The Shape of Water, where that's that's more of a dark fantasy. It's not necessarily a horror movie, but that's more of a dark fantasy. Another example I would say would be something like Cujo. Honestly, I would say Cujo isn't a horror movie by that same metric. It's a creature feature, sure, but it's not. I wouldn't really consider it a horror movie. Just like maybe the last half hour is a creature feature, and even then, Cujo's another one I could review and just say that's a bad movie. I honestly, Cujo's a worse movie than this by so many metrics, but that's neither here nor there. But it's one of those things, if it wasn't for some of these more horrific elements that are more in line with like creature features and the fact that it has a bit more gory elements and this and the other, I genuinely would not call this a horror movie. For me, this is more in line with like a crime thriller, if I'm being honest with you. Replace Jaws, Bruce the Shark, with like your random run-of-the-mill killer. I mean, sure, I guess it's still a slasher, so I guess in that sense it's still a horror movie, but like, I don't know, for me, I also just kind of hesitate sometimes to call Jaws a horror movie. For me, it's more of like a crime thriller drama sometimes. Mystery thriller, to be honest with you, which I guess could get into some darker elements, don't get me wrong. Yeah, if not for the fact that it's Bruce the Shark, the actual elements of a shark, the actual fact that it's a creature feature, I probably wouldn't even call this horror. So at the end, in my honest opinion, what are my thoughts on Jaws? From a historical standpoint, I think it's something that should be applauded for, even from the way they made it, with all the difficulties they had, and this being one of Steven Spielberg's like very first projects, and the fact that even behind the scenes, a lot of the cast and crew wanted to kill each other because they didn't understand Steven Spielberg's vision for this, and they're like, hey, he's some like jerk off 23-year-old kid, like who the hell is he to tell me, Rob Schneider what to do, like for example, like, and all the drama that comes from behind the scenes of that, that is something to be applauded for and commended for, like how he handled all that. And I like I said, I'm not gonna lie, the first like half to 2/3 of the movie, right before they go into the boat, is genuinely some very interesting storytelling and filmmaking and this, that, and the other. That being said, I'm not gonna deny, like that last third of the movie is just such a steep drop off for me. Like again, I woke up about 25 minutes ago, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes how a movie ends generally affects how you view the whole movie. I will say the good of this movie outweighs the bad, but I'm not gonna sit here and deny that the bad is just like this minuscule thing. It is a very, in my opinion, it is a very like notable bad thing, so to speak. It's like it is a very notable negative. Where like, I can enjoy, yes, the first 2/3 of this movie, the first hour or so of this movie, but like if I want to go to sleep in like the last 30 minutes or so, like, is it worth it? Yes. That's kind of how I feel about it at the end of the day. So at the end, do I think it's a very overrated film? Honestly, yes, I do think it's overrated to an extent. That's the key word there, to an extent. I think some of its overratedness is warranted, again, from both a film history standpoint and an actual production standpoint, as well as a storytelling, like actual movie, how the movie is formed or seen standpoint. Again, I do think it should get its accolades. And honestly, despite the fact I'm not the biggest fan of Jaws, I love the fact that it was nominated for Best Picture. I think that's such an inspired choice for Best Picture. I'm not gonna lie, I have some genuine gripes with this movie, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that I love it fully 100%. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it like that. So I'm not gonna lie, to a certain extent, I do think that Jaws is overrated. That being said, the first Jaws is definitely the best one in the series. I think that, by any shadow of a doubt, nobody can deny that. Even me, as cynical as I want to be about this movie, I can't deny that this is the best Jaws movie out of the four that we've plotted. I mean, when the fourth one is literally a telekinetic shark chasing people, the family, from New York down to like the Bahamas, that kind of proves how good this movie is. I think there's always that discussion, should Jaws have gotten a sequel or not. Maybe the second Jaws, I think the second Jaws is passable. The third Jaws is fun. It's like the third Jaws doesn't need to exist. It's fun. It doesn't need to exist. And then the fourth Jaws don't. I'm just gonna leave the fourth Jaws at that. But the most interesting thing about the fourth Jaws is the fact that Michael Caine decided not to attend the Oscars and get his award. I think he did win an award for that, for like what was it, Hannah and Her Sisters. Is that what he won for or nominated for? But yeah, he decided not to go to the Oscars because he needed to film for Jaws 4: The Revenge. That's the most interesting thing, the best thing about Jaws 4. So take that for what you will. But yeah, that's basically it for now. Comment all your thoughts on Jaws and your thoughts on the movie. Comment all that down below. Let me know. Go ahead and comment down below on how wrong I am in my beliefs in Jaws, and the fact that the ending sucks, and the fact that it's not really a horror movie. Comment all that down below. Let me know. And just tell me how wrong I am. And yeah, that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart, signing off.